Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today. I'm Dr. Tammy Hodgkiss, the Origin Centre Curator. Our lectures and talks in the past at Origin Centre have focused not only on new scientific research in archaeology, but also on stimulating dialogue and having difficult conversations. Conversations around social issues, cultural differences and conflicts, which are often rooted in the past. So we feel it is important to have the series of talks focusing on the cultural capital of South Africa and mental health, especially as we deal with a terrible pandemic which has drastically changed the way that we live. We have worked with Dr. Kirti Ranchard on various talks in the last few years around mental health, wellness, and different cultural approaches to medicine and healing. And we're delighted to partner with Kirti again, now in the virtual realm, on this series of talks on healthy aging and the brain, tapping into our cultural capital. In each talk in the series, she will be joined by artists, musicians, and thinkers to discuss the power of art in its many forms and how art can help maintain good mental health. I'll now introduce Kirti, and she will then introduce our guest for today, a South African music great, Pops Mohamed. Kirti is a neurologist and Atlantic Fellow focusing on brain health. Her expertise is on promoting brain health by making the latest research practical. This is in order to reduce the risk of illnesses such as depression, anxiety, stroke, and dementia, which are increasing worldwide, and to promote mental health. Her approaches include creativity, calm, self-awareness, and focus as essential elements for a healthy brain. Interests include the role of traditional practices in promoting health, neuroaesthetics, and understanding the different perceptions of memory. So we'd also like to thank our sponsors for these talks, which is the Dana Foundation. And thank you guys for joining. Kirti, over to you.
Thank you, Tammy, for that introduction. I really am excited to be starting this series of talks today. We were originally scheduled to start in April of this year, but 2020 being what it is, we have moved to an online platform and really excited about the different reach it gives us. I thought I would start with a reflection on why I'm doing this and why I think it's important. My focus is on brain health, so how to keep the brain healthy, how to adopt healthy habits and behaviors in order to support health, and in part to reduce the risk of certain illnesses such as depression, dementia, and anxiety, and in part because a healthier brain allows us to function better in the world, allows us to embrace opportunities and handle the challenges in this world. And as I was doing this, I started reflecting on the role of our traditional or cultural practices and the value that they have in promoting brain health. I think, well, at least for me, I can't speak for everybody, but often I think we may take some of them for granted. And doing this work gave me a new insight on their potential to promote social cohesion and communities, which keep the brain healthy, reduce the risk of dementia and anxiety and depression. Their role in making you think, reflect, keeping you mentally active, which again keeps your brain healthy. The use of art and music and dance that happens so naturally, sometimes we don't even consider them as art and music and dance. It's in our temples, our churches, our city streets. It's there when we get married or different cultural traditions. And so given all of that, I started reflecting on the potential of these practices to promote health, to promote brain health and mental health. And more than that, how do we tap into it and support them to actually do this? is there wisdom in these traditions and cultures that will allow us to heal and thrive individually and as a society? And to me, this is our cultural capital that includes the art forms in all its many forms, but extends beyond that. It's really ways of living and knowing that includes practices like mindfulness, integrated living, wellness, intergenerational living. All are completely integrated in our systems of living, our cultures and our traditions. So, like I said, I think this is our cultural capital, a cultural inheritance that is handed down through generations, that connects me to my grandmother and to my ancestors. And what happens if we lose this invaluable resource? What value system or lifestyle will replace it? Will it be a system that pushes older people onto the edges of society, both physically and mentally? What would we lose by doing that? Would it be a system that alienates us from the people we love and care about, that alienates us from ourselves, and that has to spend millions fighting the epidemic of loneliness? And so, going back to it, how do we support and tap into our cultures and traditions to support social cohesion, keep us mentally engaged, support healthier choices for both ourselves and our communities? And we're starting today with music. Think about how music has been used in our traditions and in our cultures, and in a traditional and in a contemporary setting. And what is its potential to help us to stay healthy or to heal, and beyond that, to thrive? With that, I would like to welcome my guest speaker for today, the amazing South African musician, Pops Mohamed. For those who don't know, Pops Mohamed's music has transcended genres and traditions. He plays the kora, the mbira, guitar, amongst many, many others. He has produced a house music album and an album focusing on the sacred music of Southern Africa. And again, with a long list of other albums that he has produced. He started actually by creating his own handmade cassettes. And this led him to the point where he got to play for Madiba and transport him to his childhood with the rhythms that he produced. We're going to have a really interesting discussion on music, on heritage, on tradition, and I hope this gives us all some insights on how to actually live better, how to tap into the resources that we have to stay healthy and happy. Welcome, Pops. I'm so happy to be hosting this talk with you. And I'm going to relate the first time I actually saw you perform, which was in 1993 at the Grahamstown Arts Festival. And I was there with a wonderful group of friends, exactly. But it was magical and memorable because it was the first time I'd seen the mbira being played professionally on stage with an orchestra. And it was just like, and it really did stay and still one of those memories I have of music. And as I've been doing this in terms of health and brain health and how we support healthy aging, one of the things I'm aware of is the power of music to help to heal. And I know you do a lot of work with regard to this as well. What do you think the power of music actually is beyond enjoyment?
Well, I mean, first of all, let's put it this way. What would this world be like without music? You know what I'm saying?
Sad.
So like, I'll give you a simple example how musical people are. A lot of people say, oh, I don't know music, I can't play music, I can't do, no, they just like, no, I can't do music, they just like in denial, but everybody has got a beat to them.
Right.
Like, give you an example, if you, for instance, you're going to the bus stop or to the train station and all of a sudden you just missed the bus and you go like, damn, man. And then all of a sudden you start doing funny things, you start going like, oh gosh, man, where's the train? Sure, no.
Right,
That's a beat already,
Right, of course.
That's a beat already. So you're soothing yourself without knowing that until the next bus or the next train comes. But talking about music going beyond enjoyment or entertainment, if you want to say, if you want to put it that way, music has got a very, very deep meaning that people don't understand. If you listen to music, you listen to a particular song of an artist, you don't have to know the artist. By listening to his music, you can tell the character of that artist, like what this person would be like when I meet him,
Right.
I'm not saying you're deciding if you want to meet him or not, but that can tell you the character of the person. And therefore, always when people see international stars coming to perform, and then they say, wow, I met her backstage, or I met him backstage. He's completely different from the person that I saw on stage,
Of course.
Asking which way, how, so they try to explain. So what I'm saying basically is with your music, you need to be truthful. For me, myself, personally, I'm an open book, what you see is what, and this is my music.
Right.
I can't be portrayed to be this person on stage, and then off stage I'm my real self. And then it's almost like you actually like you've got two identities. There's a conflict because some people are very confused. Do you remember the main ingredients?
The main ingredients?
Yes. It's
no.
An American a cappella group.
No, unfortunately not.
So I always listened to their music,
Right.
They always had beautiful ballads and stuff like that. And then in the 80s, they came to South Africa at the Colosseum that got shut down.
Right.
But I've always listened to their music, and we used to have debates, me and a friend of mine, and he says, these guys are coming, are you going to watch them? I said, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. He says, but it's going to be boring because they sing mostly ballads. I said, but every ballad was a hit,
Right.
I've got a feeling that these guys are going to be very lively on stage. They'll be kicking. And when we went to see them at the Colosseum, it was exactly that. They came out with a big bang and people were like confused. Wow, the kind of entertainment that they gave was so amazing, including their hits. But I could tell from their music that on stage that these people are going to be dynamic. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
I could tell
right.
from the music. And then when they came back the second time, no, actually, it's exactly 3 years ago, the main ingredient came to one of the festivals I was performing at. And I met them personally. Yes. And I spoke to the lead singer, and he was such a nice person. He was like his music.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He was exactly like his music. The guy's name was Cuba Gooding. I think he's still alive, and his son is an actor.
Yes, I
I
know
forgot
his son.
the son, yeah,
Yeah,
Gooding. So
yeah.
it's his dad.
Ah,
And he was
interesting.
exactly like I assumed he would be, you know?
Right,
So
right.
listening to music again from a very deep, deep level, if you want to get into an altered state of mind, sometimes you don't even have to listen to music to get you into that state of mind, because you close your eyes in the form of like a yoga kind of thing. The silence in the air on its
Mm,
own, that alone is music.
right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
silence is the music. And what we play with our musical instruments or what we sing, we are only filling a few gaps, basically,
Mm,
within that silence, which brings the music. So you listen to the silence. I watched, well, in fact, I don't know if you know, there's a video that was done a few years ago, a big project called One Giant Leap.
no.
It's an amazing, I'll send you the link.
Okay, please do.
I was part of that One Giant
Right,
Leap.
right.
These guys got £1 million from Palm Pictures in London,
Mm-hmm.
and they asked them to go around the world to record some of the top musicians
Right.
and put all the music together. So basically, what they did was chain songs. They would go to Mali and ask a guy to play a djembe, and then they'll go to Senegal and ask someone to add on top of the djembe. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
that's how they went around the world. But they ended up spending most of their time in India.
Okay.
And that was the most amazing journey where you start learning more about what music is about.
Right,
And
right.
it's so uplifting every time when it comes to that part where this one guy is a philosopher, and he said that you got to listen to the silence.
Yeah, it's so
And
true. It's so true.
that blew me away. And to
Yeah.
find that silence, it's a very, very difficult thing. You know, it's almost like trying to be, how could I put it? Not spiritual, there's another word for it, but to be divine, to find that divinity within the silence that will make it musical.
Right.
And you have to be in a very clean, conscious mind. Your subconscious mind and your conscious mind must be one, as
Right.
one.
Right.
And you are totally oblivious of what's happening around you,
Yeah.
irrespective of noises coming from outside. And all you just want to do is to listen to that silence in order to get that inner peace. So now that silence is the music, and it takes you far away, so far away that you can't believe that you actually don't want to come back, and you would sit there or lie down and you listen to the silence, and it's almost like you're in the galaxies. You can see
Right.
stars moving, and and everything just going that way, and until such time when you will yourself back to come back to reality. But
Right.
when you come back to reality, it's a different reality.
How
It's not
so?
like it's not like you can, oh gosh, here I'm back in this horrible world. You know
Yes.
what I mean?
Right.
It's a beautiful reality because you walk around smiling, you get to know your fellow human beings better. You start loving your enemies, become friends with your enemies because you
Right.
found peace. You found that
Right.
silence. So
And
you
so
actually,
music helps you
yeah,
to get to that state, and so you get back to a place where you're able to relate to people you love and don't love in a better
and
way.
you see them differently because
Right.
you want them to experience that. And only through that, where even your worst enemies see your attitude is changing, when you meet someone in the street, or maybe you guys had an outfall or something, your fallout, and you just go like, hey, Tom, and he would look at you very suspiciously, like thinking, what's wrong with him? And the next time you just, hey, Tom, then he'll also respond to you. And then he'll go like, well, Pops is different today. Well, And that's how it goes. That's, you want them to see that, so they see that beauty coming from you. They see that light that's shining, like in Islam, they call it the nur, the light
Right.
that's shining. And they can see the nur coming. So when you listen to music now, for instance, you place a CD or any music that you listen to, that you feel like listening to, you're going to enjoy it even more, because you
Right.
understand now that this that I'm listening to, this CD, or Pops Mohamed is performing, he's adding to the silence
Yes.
that I know, filling the gaps, and it's almost like a call and response. So
Right.
I don't know if that answers your question, the deepness of music. How far can music take you, depending on how you understand or how you want to understand music. You know what I'm saying?
No, yeah, no, I think you've definitely answered the question. And I think for me, what comes across is that you are able to relate to the world in a healthier manner, right? Both with your challenges and your opportunities. So music gives you these skills or tools, but on a very unconscious level, without you having to think and process and plan. You have a different way of relating, which really is
Mm-hmm.
profound. And I think we have so much to actually do in South Africa and beyond, which I think music will help with. But I want to go back to one of the other things you also mentioned, because having
Yeah.
watched you for the first time in 1993, and I've watched you several times since,
Mm-hmm.
what comes across when I do watch you, and I know it's not just from me, it's with friends that I have been shared this experience with, is you
Mm-hmm.
have this great respect and reverence for the music you're producing, for your audience, and for your fellow musicians. And I think that comes through when you perform. So why do you think you have this? Like, why do you transmit this? Why is it important?
I think, again, you have to be true to yourself. And what I'm trying to do, my music, is to protect and to preserve our beautiful heritage,
Mm,
of all cultures. And I
mm,
think, in my honesty, when I go to perform, I never know what the audience are going to feel like. How am I going to project the music? I'm still one of those people who really take a big consideration before I walk onto that stage, because
right,
I play my own compositions and you don't know if the people will be receptive or not. You know what I'm saying?
right,
So
right,
you go there with the worst feeling that you've ever had, and getting onto the stage by giving the best that you have.
right.
And just by doing that, people become receptive to the music, and not only the music, but also the message in the music and the stories that goes along with the music, not the music, but the actual musical instruments. People love these things because it's not only music, it's information that I'm
Mm,
giving. This is all my research that I've been doing since June 1976, when I decided
right.
to stop becoming a rock guitarist. Because, guitar was my first instrument.
Ah, no, I did not know that. Right.
Yeah. Actually, I'll send you a video of me playing guitar.
Please do.
I'm actually going to release that video. It's called African Sketches.
Okay. Okay.
So the reason why I'm doing this is that a lot of people know, most of the people who knows me, they know the Pops from now, the guy who plays the kora and mbiras, but they don't know the Pops from the 80s. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right. Of course.
Pops was a rock guitarist. I used to play Aaron, and we used to play Indian music. There was a
Oh,
band that
lovely.
in Actonville, not perform, but we used to share the stage. They were called the Dul Rubas.
Ah,
And we used to play.
interesting.
People thought I was crazy, because then I would start playing Indian songs on the guitar. So, and then I always say to the guys, that's not an original Indian song. They said, why? I said, no, that's not original. What the guys have done, they've taken that song, sugar in the morning, sugar in the evening, sugar at supper time.
Ah,
So I said, so this guys got clever, so they took the melody and they put their own words. So they're very smart. That's how they got their royalties, you know.
Right.
So when June 1976 came, you know, we used to play Van Halen, Jimi Hendrix, Aretha
Right.
Franklin. We used to play Lang Arm. There was a band called the Black Diamonds in Benoni.
Right.
In Boxburg, we had the Debonaires. And my band was called
Yes.
Les Valiants. I'll send
Okay.
you Les
Yes,
Valiants, my
please.
first band. And then I started another band, which was more like sort of upbeat in Johannesburg. I was living in the East Rand. Well, I'm back in the East Rand now again. But
I
when
spent lots of time in the East Rand, love it. So
yes.
yeah.
When I went to Johannesburg to join a band called Society's Children, I wrote a song called I'm a Married Man.
Right.
Because our bass player, he was a handsome devil. All the girls felt him. He had a beautiful voice, you know, could play an amazing bass. And then when he got married, I said to him, listen, bro, I've got a song for you now. These guys got to know you're married now. And he said, no, man. I said, no, here's the song. So I wrote the song for him and we rehearsed the song and it became a big hit. I'm a Married Man.
Right.
Funny, Kirti, you won't believe it. I mean, the last time I heard that song, it must have been the early 70s, actually, 1971, 72. And then
Wow.
exact weeks ago, somebody on Facebook sent 7 single, I'm a Married Man, and the music,
Wow.
and the guy says, Pops Mohamed, I have this 7 single called I'm a Married Man. Who are the musicians in the band?
Right.
Man, I'm
That
a married man. And I listened to the song and me playing the guitar there, and I'm just trying to picture how beautiful it was, the amazing music we did. Because from the East Rand to Johannesburg, it's almost, when you play with a band in Johannesburg, it's like playing in a band in New York, you know? You
right.
go both, I play in Joburg, you know, I've joined a band in Joburg, you know,
Right.
so, but we made good music, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I listened to I'm a Married Man, and Peter, man, he was so amazing. And all the girls understood that Peter is now married. You need to leave him alone. Now, and now, just a few weeks ago, I've got this guy sent, you know, thanks,
Yeah,
you know,
that's
God so that he sent the 7 single. And then all the memories came back about the band, the places we used to play, the Club Matador in Fortsburg. It used to be Fitas
right.
back in those days. And all those memories came back, and I could tell a story of that. So eventually, within the next few weeks, I want to release that single, you know. And
Right. So this
Peter
is
has passed on.
one of the other
Yeah,
interesting things about music, just as you're relating the story, in terms of
right.
how music actually changes, not changes, what it activates in your brain when you're listening to music.
Yes.
So it activates the emotional processing centers of the brain, the limbic system, together
Mm,
with the memory
mm.
part of the brain, the hippocampus. And that's why
Yes.
a lot of our musical memories are linked to specific times in our lives or an emotional
Mm.
response to it, which you just
Right.
described so well in terms of how music links these two and activates our memories and helps our memories actually in terms of that emotional processing of it.
It
Yeah,
does.
yeah.
You know, like sometimes, I mean, I'm now very ripe in my age now. I've just turned 70. And
Congratulations.
thank you. And when I try to think back 1972, 1971, what did I do? You know, it's so far back, like you almost can't remember. But then
Exactly.
this guy sends this 7 single, and all of a sudden everything opens up. Just that music tells you, oh yes, we did this. We played here. We played in Pretoria. We played at the Bel Air, Lionel Peterson, and all of a sudden you remember what you did in those years, you know? And then it takes you back into the 60s to your very first band, Les Valiants. And then I remember, you know, and then everything just comes back. And this is what the music does to you. So
Exactly.
come June 1976, was the turning point in our lives.
Ah, okay.
This is where music plays a very, very big role.
Right.
I listened to the radio stations. All of a sudden, we were listening to more Western music playing. And then the radio stations like Radio Vanda and then all those other radio stations who don't exist anymore,
Mm.
they stopped playing hardcore, undiluted, traditional music. Because
Ah,
now they start going more, to the West, thinking that it's
interesting.
good. So the music became less and less. So it became like, this is not really the format of the station,
Mm. Mm.
So, and that's how everything started changing. And then I started listening to people like Mzwake Mbule, the poet, Don Matera, and all those people coming up with strong, strong messages.
Mm.
Papa and Blondie, the African Youth Band, all these struggle songs, And I said to myself, man, the world doesn't need another guitar player.
Right.
The world doesn't need another piano player because I studied piano as well.
Right. Right.
I'm going to continue playing music. What am I going to do? Because I love my music. How can I be part of this big thing that's going to happen? Because I could see something big is going to happen. A lot of people left the country, especially musicians, for the right reasons. They went to live in exile.
Mm.
And I said, wherever this is going to lead me, I'm not going in exile. I want to help put out fires with my music. But what music am I going to play? And that's when I started remembering and noticing how certain musics are disappearing from the radio stations. And I said, well, if this is going to be my gig, it's not going to make me a lot of money, but I'm going to study indigenous instruments.
Right.
That's what I did. I
Right.
still continued playing guitar, but in the meanwhile, I went to all these villages. I went to Grahamstown. I met Andrew Tracy, and he pointed out the Xhosa people for me in the Eastern Cape, in Lady Frere. That's where I met these people who plays this mouthbow called Mkhube, and they taught me that. And then I met a master mbira player from Zimbabwe, Efat Mjuru.
Okay.
And he used to come from Zimbabwe and he gave musical classes like workshops at Wits. And he used to come and stay over at my flat when I was still living in Johannesburg. And I would spend like over weekends when he comes to Johannesburg. And he taught me how to play the mbira. In fact, I've got an amazing mbira I'd like to show you. It's not with me now. It's somewhere in the ground, but I think it's about 100 years old now.
Wow.
Actually, I must get it and show it to you.
Yeah, definitely. So, part
so,
of what?
So that's what happened. I studied. I went to the desert, the Kalahari, all these instruments. And then I said, what am I going to do now is to get a band together. And then because I know Western music, I'll be able to fuse the music. I'll be playing indigenous instruments and the band will be playing modern instruments like guitar, bass guitar, keyboard, saxophone, and produce some kind of a past, present, and future, ancient future sound, which I would say it's future South African music. But funny enough, 3 months ago, I came up with a beautiful name. I'm calling it Josie Avant-Garde.
I love it. That is brilliant. Josie Avant-Garde works perfectly.
So, and then my inspiration came from Madiba himself.
Right.
I met the late Welcome Msome, who passed away a few weeks ago. And I actually met him when he was in exile in 1992. And he introduced me to Tokyo Sequale when Tokyo was released from Robben Island. And Welcome used to visit my house. I always used to cook for him. I love cooking.
Right.
And came with friends. And then this particular day, he came with Tokyo. And I had no clue who Tokyo was. And he said to me, I'm bringing something very special to your house tomorrow. Cook some nice food. the guy is out in his coming. He's just been released from Robben Island. I thought, okay, no problem, And I met Tokyo. What a lovely man he was.
Right,
And
right.
ever since then, when Madiba was running for president, they had these campaigns. And the first campaign that they had in Soweto, Tokyo called me up and he said, I'd love you to come and perform with your band. And
Right.
then I had a band of only mbiras
Wow.
and percussion.
Right,
The name of the band was Aquaba,
right.
an amazing band. I remember the guy who was the poet in the band. He had a song, not a song, a poem where he said, I shall toy toy no more because this dance has lost its point.
Right.
It's time for a new dance,
Mm.
So we went to perform at this rally, and Madiba came on stage, made his speech, and after the speech, we started playing. He looked at us from the side of the stage. When we finished performing, another band came, and we walked off stage, and he asked me, what's your name? I said, Pops. And he says, you know what you're doing is such an amazing thing. I grew up listening to this music when I was a boy, and I never thought I would still see people still playing these instruments. I said to him, well, this has become like my hardcore gig, trying to protect and preserve. And he said to me, I know that this is not easy. You're not going to make money easily, but you are on the right road. What you're doing and what you believe in, you will reach your goals. Wherever you want to be, this music will take you there.
What a beautiful
And
affirmation from such an amazing man. What a beautiful affirmation
yes,
of what you're doing.
said to me, the music will take you wherever you want to go. Although it
Right,
won't pay you now, but keep doing what you're doing. And
right.
ever since then, I've been booked to do not most of their gigs, but some of them. But my highlight of my life with Madiba was when he turned 75 years old.
Right.
And the office called me and they said they want me to play with Madiba, for Madiba, and also they want me to carry the cake with him onto stage. This was at the
Right,
Carlton
right.
Center. So I had a much more bigger band, and it's so funny. He came and he looked at me and he laughed and he says, Popo? I think he forgot it's Pop. So he says, Popo. He says, how are you doing? I said, I'm good. So he says, apparently we have to carry the cake onto the stage, me and you. He says, I will be so honored to carry the cake. I don't know how to say, Sir, or Mr. President, or
Yes.
whatever. I just said, Sir, this man, he looked tall. He had this beautiful face of an angel, which was just so musical, And I knew that Madiba loved music, but everything on his face just spelled music. And then came the time when we had to carry the cake onto stage. So
Right.
big, like a board, and there's this big cake. And so we're walking onto stage, and I knew that Madiba was limping slightly. I don't know if you remember, he used to walk with a stick in his years. And as we were about to enter the stage, he may have missed a step or something went wrong and the cake rolled to my side. And I shouted at him. It was so funny. I said, what are you doing? It's on your side. So I pulled up and I tried to balance. I said, no, it's coming from you. And he says, no, we've got it now. Bobo, we've got it. And then it was so funny. And we carried the cake on stage. And I don't know if people heard, but some people were just clapping their hands. Maybe they heard over the microphones. And then we placed the cake in the middle of the stage, and he stayed there, and he looks at me like that, and then he started talking. So after I walked off stage, I came backstage. The guy says, hey, you're going to be in trouble. I said, why? He says, you shouted, didn't you? He said, you shouted. You said, what are you doing? You know? And then he did his speech and everything. And he came back, he looked at me and he smiled. He says, Papa, beautiful. It's nice to see you again. It's beautiful to see that you still holding this flag up high. And exactly a year later, we were invited to London, where he went to London to make that famous speech at
Right.
Buckingham Palace.
Right. Lovely. So,
And carry on.
just from what you were speaking about now, in terms of 1976, changing the trajectory of the way you were going to perform music and making sure you started including indigenous instruments and musical traditions, and actually connecting Madiba to his childhood. What a wonderful thing to be able to do.
Yes.
And I wonder how much you think things have changed from 1976 to 2020, because I sense that there's still quite limited opportunities for artists and musicians using indigenous instruments and yeah, like, so how do we change that?
Kiriti, maybe you don't know it, but because that's like my thing, you know, I love indigenous music, and I'm in touch with all the people around the country, like Madosini, Dizu Plaikis, Stasha, and all the guys, you know. How many young people have taken up indigenous instruments? A lot of people don't know that. People who are studying, whenever I do workshops in universities or at schools, and I say to them, it's cool to become a hip hop artist. It's cool to become a jazz artist or a classical artist, you know, and it's cool for you to live your life, you know, your age, live your life the way you should, like any young person, wearing your cap sideways and swagging and all that. It's cool. But you must always remember where you're coming from. Don't forget your roots. If you study if you study classics or jazz, make absolutely sure that you take the time to study at least one or two indigenous instruments, because that is going to be your tool, your number one tool. If you become a musician, a professional musician, or a producer, or a filmmaker, for instance, that will be your number one tool to go for, because the music from the future, music of the future will be coming from Africa. And funny enough, a lot of the kids took notice of what I said.
Excellent.
And I know, because this is my world, that there are more than 20,000 youngsters under the age of 26 who are studying indigenous instruments, either through a college or just by hearing, you know, and just so I know that there are a lot of people. Things haven't changed. In fact, there's a rise, especially now with COVID. A lot of people are contacting me from the Eastern Cape to Durban, you just name it. What's the name of that instrument? What's the name of that instrument? I just bought a CD of yours called The Futurist. Someone called me the other day. I released a house album about 8 years ago, which is called The Futurist.
Okay.
And I used indigenous instruments as a leading instrument to tell the world that indigenous instruments are not just little trinkets, you know, not touristy things. They can actually become a lead instrument within a band. And this was my example. I produced full-on house album, and I got people like Rude Boy Paul, Revolution, DJ Mbuzo, DJ Christos, all those top, because this is now where everything comes into place. My guitar playing also took a big part in that album. There's a track called Toi Toi, and I'm playing the guitar there. Really hip song, and that inspired so many young people around the country and even other parts of the Futurists. So the kids, to answer your question, is I'm seeing more and more younger people going back to their roots and trying to understand where they're coming from, in search of what did Black people listen to, or let's say, what did South Africans listen to? What music did they listen to 100 years ago? Because I would ask them those questions in workshops. What do you think they've been listening to? That was before Elvis Presley and all those guys. And obviously, people were just playing indigenous instruments. That's where it all started. And the first thing you look at the cohesion. So more and more people are becoming aware of their roots. And I'm very proud to say to you, to answer your question, is that I was scared it might get lost, but now I can see that the kids are really, really focused. They are becoming modern South Africans, being cool. Because I said to the guys,
Brilliant.
It's cool to be African and to be modern, to be hip, know your roots, to know where you're coming from. Because if in order for you to go forward, you need to take 2 or 3 steps backward. And let's be more serious so that people from the West must buy our music with the same passion as what we buying their music, like Beyonce and whoever it is, Whitney Houston and all those people. We buy it with a passion because we love it. When are they going to buy our music with that same passion, other than just saying, oh, I've been to Africa, I've got an example, I've got this CD, as proof to say that he's been to Africa. That's not what we want. We don't want to be seen as a novel, or people are ashamed, I'll buy an album to support this guy. We want them to buy it with that passion. And the only way we could conquer that is when Africa stands together as one. And I think we should start in South Africa. I still want to see one day, before I close my eyes, that African musicians from all over this continent come together and put up a structure. How can Africans help Africans the way Americans and Europeans are helping each other? They support each other. You could go to the States and you can still listen to Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin and all those people that have passed away. Nat King Cole, you just name it. Louis Armstrong, all those people. Their families are earning royalties. If you look at someone like Sam Moana, who passed away quite a few years ago, they've forgotten about it. I mean, Brai Hugh Masekela, people are also starting to forget about it. How do we have a marketing strategy where the families of those that passed on royalties, these guys are masters. You go to the States, you could buy a music book on John Coltrane, Miles Davis. Everybody's playing Miles Davis. They study their music. But we don't have music sheets of our own people. There's so much work that needs to be done. Winston Mankunku, Basil Kutsier, Robbie Johnson, Mike Makhalimele, Abdullah Ibrahim, those people. The music hasn't been documented. If children want to study Pops Mohammed's music and they're on university, there's no music sheets. So it's up to us to make it available to schools. We need sponsoring from the government to help us. So that especially now with COVID-19, artists are not earning a penny. People are battling to put bread and butter on the table. Whereas if their music was sold not only on the internet, but music sheets, they could be selling their music now and earn a bit of a living there. You know what I'm saying?
So music does play a big role. And I think what you're saying is there's been a huge growth since you started, but we still have a long way to go in terms of actually supporting. I'm really happy that the indigenous instruments traditions are taking off in that manner. That's wonderful.
And also within the Indian community as well. I work with Ashish. I work with Purvi Bana. She just came back from India a few months ago. She went to study some more, and she's teaching a lot of young kids sitar, dancing.
Oh, wonderful! Wonderful.
Asked her, how's your work? She says it's brilliant. Things are going good. I'm teaching. The young kids are interested,
Right.
So all around the spectrum, I think that we are quite safe. and I'm so confident and so happy that I had met Madiba on several occasions and the encouragement that he's given me. And I believe that if I continued playing guitar or whatever, I wouldn't have made it overseas.
Oh, and you
And
wouldn't
through
have met Madiba, so
yes, all thanks goes to him, because he said to
yeah.
me, one day you'll get where you want to be and you'll go and see the world. And indeed, he was so right. I saw the world. I mean, I'm so happy. I'm in such a great space now that I can actually enjoy what I'm doing and look back and say, yes,
You made a
you and your body
difference.
made a big difference.
Big
And I will
difference.
continue to do so, Like
So
now at this ripe age, I feel like I'm looking forward to my new future, producing new music and being happy, just to be with people and continue talking about protecting and preserving our beautiful heritage.
what do you think your secret is to having aged so well and healthy and happy?
Well, like I said again, Kirti, you won't believe me. I've never seen drugs live.
Right.
I've never seen Coke or anything, Purple Heart or anything. That's just
Right.
how I'm not interested.
Mm.
And what kept me young was I always stayed away from trouble because I
Right.
had a vision. I
Right.
grew up in the woods where things were rough and everything. And whenever I saw trouble, people would think I'm a coward. I would run away. People stabbing one another and I get chased and everything. I would never fight back because I had a vision and I said to myself, I'm bigger than this.
Right.
Eating healthy, looking after yourself, honor your mother and your father. It's a big
Mm.
blessing.
Mm.
And be friendly with everyone and try to be the person who you are, exactly the way what your music is. Be that same image. So basically, I'm like an open book. My image is my music or my music is my image. And that's what I believe in, just to be honest with yourself, stay healthy, be friendly to people, and be serious in whatever you do. Take it up with a passion and love what you're doing.
Right. Right.
I remember I started off, before I worked professionally, I was working in a factory, Dorman Long van der Bijl. I was a profile cutter for
Right.
14 years,
Right. Right.
and it was when I was still married. And in those years, I only played over weekends. But then came the challenge was now I felt when I met this guy from England, um, no, I left Doorbell after 14 years and I went to work for Koinur in Johannesburg, which is the biggest jazz store in South Africa. Well, it was. They don't exist anymore, except one small branch. And I worked there for about 3 to 4 years. And this man walked into the shop from London. He came with Ayrton Moreira and Flora Purium, big
Okay.
Brazilian artists. And he came to the counter where I was working as an in-store promoter. And he says, I'm looking for Pops Mohamed. And I said, you're talking to him. He says, are you Pops Mohamed? I said, yes. And he bought my first cassette ever. Oh, that's another story. A handmade cassette, because I used the stencil. I did drawings and everything. I bought blank cassettes and did everything at home, one by one, and said to
Wow.
myself, you start in your record company. So
Right.
I walked from Jappystown right up to Mayfair with a Checkers carrier bag with cassettes and selling them,
Right. Wow.
And I said to myself, this is my record company.
Thanks. It's been such an awesome discussion so far, actually. So, how has your faith and your spirituality helped your music and helped you in life and helped you to age well? Like, how has that played a role in your life? Has it
Played a very
been,
big.
yeah,
Well,
sure.
you've got to believe the Almighty, first of all. You can't do it on your own.
Right.
Without spirituality or without believing there's something bigger than you out there, you'll never make it. And I was I wouldn't say religious, but I always saw myself as a spiritual person. And I used to fast, I try to keep up all those laws as a Muslim, go to church, to the mosque, and do the right things wherever I can. We can't be perfect people all the time. We try to be perfect, but I've always been a spiritual person, and I strongly believe in who I am, what I am as a Muslim. And I also strongly believe in other cultures and religions as well. It doesn't prohibit me from studying other cultures. In fact, in Islam, it's encouraged that you look into other cultures so that we may know one another.
Right.
So growing up in Benoni, I had a lot of Hindu and Tamil friends, Some of them have passed on, some of them are still around. I used to go to Tamil school with my friends for fun.
Right.
As a child, and we used to learn, but it was a great experience because I just want to be with my friends, and whatever they do, I do, So we learned things like Ana, Havana, Ina, and all those things, the chants. And then also going to the mosque, they would come with me to the mosque, We were kids. And that's how we grew up,
Yeah.
Going to Christian churches and things like that. So that, I guess, has always been a part of me. That's why I could, I can accept any kind of spirituality, any religion, whether you're Jewish or Buddhist, it doesn't matter. I understand. I grew up with these people, going to their churches, understanding the guitar, and stuff like that. So that played a very big role in my life. I wouldn't have been where I am without my spirituality and believing, because of God Almighty, He's the only one who leads you, your destiny. You got to pray a lot as well. Pray for health, and don't pray you're rich. It's always good to have, just do things. But I think the important thing for health, your life, the way you see people, and how people see you as a person. So those are my spiritual beliefs, and I believe in those qualities because it's what's keeping me going. You pray. It's good to talk to God the Almighty once in a while. Yeah. Sometimes you're really down and out. You're despondent. You just don't know where to turn to, and He's always there. Always willing to listen to. And that's when you speak to Him. You understand the silence. You understand how to take your mind to a certain place. And you can actually go to that place because you understand the silence now. And you want to meet this person and talk to him. It's almost like you're having an interview with God. What's wrong with me? Right. Why am I doing this? Why are things going wrong? Please help me, help my family, help the universe, the whole world. And everything, COVID-19, and everything just goes wrong. So you speak to Him. And I think that kept me going. I'll say that's my secret. It's not a secret, but just be good and look after yourself and be safe all the time and respect elder people. I just saw 2 months ago of a man in Cape Town who turned 116.
Yeah.
And when they asked him, what kept you going? And he said, if you honor your mother and your father, God will lengthen your life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's his secret. And he's a heavy cigarette smoker. and what's it about the smoking? He says, if I stop smoking, I'll die. And what a wonderful story. I read some of his history, and you read about these people around the world, like the oldest people in the world, they all have similar stories. To your mother and your father and your friends, your family, everyone. And you live a long, happy life. So I guess that's my secret.
Thank you for sharing your secret. I'm going to spread it even wider than this. So yeah, it's going to be a very well-known secret soon. I want to just also briefly discuss, the work you've did on different with different communities, so that you worked with different
Right.
communities throughout South Africa, and there was this excellent documentary on SABC that you were instrumental in,
Southern
Southern
Rhythms.
Rhythms. And
Southern
I just
Rhythms.
thought you could share some of the insights you gained from working with such varied communities throughout South Africa.
Well, when that thing came through, the producer and the director, they approached me and they said, "Look, we're doing a pilot, uh, of religious music within the different church dominations. Would you be interested?" And I said, "Yes." They said, "But we'd love you to become a presenter." I said, "Me, a presenter? I can see myself as a presenter." They said, "No, we want you. It must be character driven." And I agreed. And I didn't think much about it, but 6 months later, they came back to me and they said, "Look, it's been accepted. This is the story now. We're going on a tour in South Africa. So we'll be working on imported religions and then indigenous religions. So imported would be your Indians, the Muslims, and the Jewish people. And then indigenous religions we'll be working on is the Khoisan, the Xhosas, and the Venda people. And we are going to explore the sacred music within the churches. Old music, new music, or future music, whatever the case may be, it's all in your hands. And that was one of the highlights of my life. It was such an extraordinary journey that I could kick myself. I said, "Man, this is something I've been dreaming about, getting to know the people. Now we need to understand how many gods are there, you know?"
Yeah.
And after having worked with all these people, we all believe that we one big family. Like in one of the episodes, this lady from Durban in the temple, she said, "The whole world is one big family." And she's a great singer. And every culture that I visited, they welcomed me with open arms and told me the secrets of the music and the use of incenses, because I even asked, what does incense play? What role does it play within cultures? And I got to learn about those things because I love incense, burning incense, different incenses from different parts of the world. So that journey for me, Kirti, we could speak for hours. Every visit to every culture or religion, I would say, was a mind-blowing experience because I get to know things that I've never even thought I would know. It was being like going to university. And after Southern Rhythms, my life had changed completely.
Wow.
I saw the whole world differently, and I'm seeing people differently, different cultures, and respecting them to say, "Man, this woman said the whole world is one big family," and I agree with her. We all pray to the same God, just in different ways. But ultimately, it's the same God, and that was the answer. That was my experience. Like, I want to find out, who is He? And I found out that He is the same one that everyone is talking about. So Southern Rhythms has been amazing. It's been a huge success. I think they aired more than 6 times. And then eventually now, just a few weeks ago, I own the masters for the CD of Southern Rhythms. As a matter of fact, there's an album coming out very shortly. I have a single already. It's called Arosa. But the album will follow, and the album is called Tranquil.
Okay.
So on this album, Tranquil, I've taken most of the tracks from Southern Rhythms, and I put it onto my new album, forthcoming album, which is called Tranquil.
Yeah, I think one of the magical things about it is that it opens your eyes, as you were saying, to just different cultures and the differences, the beauty, and the commonality, right? Like how much do we actually have in common and how much we can actually share with each other. And then there's just more joy in the world, actually.
Every visit to every culture or religion, I would say, was a mind-blowing experience because I get to know things that I've never even thought I would know.
Mm.
It was being like going to university. And after Southern Rhythms, my life had changed completely.
Wow.
I saw the whole world differently, and I'm seeing people differently, different cultures, and respecting them to say, man, this woman said the whole world is one big family, and I agree with her. We all pray to the same God, just in different ways. But ultimate is it's the same God, and that was the answer. That was my experience. Like, I want to find out, who is He? And I found out that He is the same one that everyone is talking about. So Southern Rhythms has been amazing. It's been a huge success. I think they aired it more than 6 times. And then eventually now, just a few weeks ago, I own the masters for the CD of Southern Rhythms. As a matter of fact, there's an album coming out very shortly. I have a single already. It's called Arosa. But the album will follow, and the album is called Tranquil.
Okay.
So on this album, Tranquil, I've taken most of the tracks from Southern Rhythms, and I put it onto my new album, forthcoming album, which is called Tranquil, which is, fortunately, the title of one of the tracks from Southern Rhythms. So those people who have seen Southern Rhythms, this is going to be a bonus for them. It will take them back on memory lane, because the music is not exactly the same as it is in the series. I've taken the music and fused it in such a way that it can be a listening CD, because I couldn't take the music as it is from the series and put out a CD. You have to watch the visuals to understand the music where it's coming from. So I had to take the music and fuse it the way I'm fusing in the series. The last 15 minutes of every episode, you can actually see me fusing the music. And those are the sections that I took and extended them into listening CDs. And I call the album Tranquil. So Southern Rhythms has been one of my turning points of my musical life and my spiritual life. It opened up things for me in a very, very big way. And I'm very thankful to SABC and the people who invited me to take part in that series. It's still a big hit. People still want to see part 2 of Southern Rhythms.
Yeah, I think one of the magical things about it is that it opens your eyes, as you were saying, to just different cultures and the differences, the beauty and the commonality, right? Like how much do we actually have in common and how much we can actually share with each other. And then there's just more joy in the world, actually.
Yeah. We have a lot in common. I know that we have a lot in common and we share a lot. It's just that people need to get together and start discussions about religion, culture, traditions, and make comparisons, because I've done that homework and there's nothing different.
Yeah.
We all do the same things, we just do it slightly differently. The main thing for us to do now is just to get to know one another. And I'd like to believe that this album, Tranquil, will do exactly that.
Thank you, Pops. This has really been an amazing discussion. I'm sure we'll have many more in the future. Thank you so much for your time, Pops Mohamed. I've really enjoyed discussing this with you. I think you are inspiring lots of people, lots of musicians, and wish you lots of luck with your shows and with your new album. And we'll chat soon. Thank you all so much for joining me. I hope this discussion has helped you to understand brain health, healthy living, and how to age well. Pops Mohamed has been so generous with his knowledge in this field. Pops Mohamed can be found on Facebook, and he's actually running several concerts online currently on Facebook. One is called Through My Lens, where he partners with different musicians. And it's a lovely concert because it's not just music, there's the stories behind the music as well. He's also doing another concert called Kazi House Concerts every 6 weeks, again with incredible musicians from South Africa and perhaps from beyond South Africa, I'm not sure. He's recently released a single, Rosa, that is available on Bandcamp. And there will be a CD released soon. And there's a wealth of music of his that is available online, including the sacred music traditions of Southern Africa. And I look forward to seeing you next week, where I'm hosting Banele Koza, a beautiful South African visual artist. Thanks again. I'll see you next week.